I decided to do a part 2 tonight. Me and my daughter just had a Spectrum versus Spectrum, why you have to go to bed now. It's never fun, right? Nobody wants to be the parent that is like, knife hand, listen up, you have to do the thing. But my daughter's kind of a night owl. Even though she loves her routine, she was not going to bed. And it was the first time ever where I had it like thrown back on me. Like, if you hadn't said anything, I probably would have gotten in bed already. Like, oh, okay. But what I actually want to make the second video tonight about is what I remembered I was thinking about on the way to work this morning, which is, boys will be boys. This is a thing that doesn't thankfully get said that much anymore, but it is said still from time to time. Maggie, what on earth? Maggie. Excuse me. Wayward cats, you understand. Yeah, boys will be boys. Used to get said a lot more, thankfully doesn't nearly as much anymore. But it reminded me of something that happened a couple of months ago. So we live in Alabama, and eastern Alabama, and I kept seeing articles about Lionel Messi coming to Auburn for an international friendly between Iceland and Argentina right before the World Cup, and I wasn't even paying attention to the date. And I saw, Auburn's not ready for what Messi's going to bring to campus. And so I was like, when is that? And I just Googled it, and it was that day. It was a Tuesday in mid to late June. Ooh, thunder. And I looked it up, and I was like, whoa, that's tonight. Are there tickets? My wife has often accused me of facilitating adventures for us, which, neither one of us is particularly spontaneous, but I guess what I bring sometimes is just this spontaneity. Like, I remember this one time I don't think we were actually dating, but we were out hanging out one night, and I could hear music in City Market in Savannah, and I virtually, sprinted, dragging her behind me, like, there's music, we gotta go see what the music is. And we went, and it was, and we danced for the first time ever. And she is not a dancer, not a natural dancer by her own admission. She doesn't want to be out there in front of people moving. And we danced to Eric Clapton's "You Look Wonderful Tonight" live to people in City Market, and it was like our first kind of magical moment, right? And maybe that's not, it fits good in a rom-com, but it's probably not actually appropriate to make a woman dance when she doesn't want to. But she didn't actually complain, which is not the same thing as it being okay. But anyway, I started looking back in June. I was like, man, Lionel Messi's he's like an hour from our house tonight. Are there tickets? And I kind of found it, and I texted my wife. I was at work. I said, hey, what if we went and saw Argentina tonight at Auburn? And I wasn't there with her. She was off for the summer, so she was home with my daughter. And in the text, you could see the wild hair building, that she was like, we could do this. And we did. And we got tickets, and it cost less than one like group round match for the World Cup in one of the big NFL stadiums or Canadian, Mexican soccer stadiums. And we got to see Lionel Messi in person. We got to see him score a goal. We got to see him we got to see him set up a goal in this amazing three-part play that I'd never seen, especially in person. And I'd never been to Jordan-Hare Stadium. I've watched my Georgia Bulldogs play them many times there on TV, but I've never been there, even though it's only 45 minutes from the house. And I've been to Sanford Stadium in Athens many more times. And I was really blessed to have a friend who was a Georgia alum who had season tickets, so I got to go with him many times. But I never went to Auburn. Their stadium's not that impressive. It's cool, it's fine, it's great, whatever. But we got to see Lionel Messi. We got to see him kick a PK. It was a really cool experience. I will keep it in my heart forever. And then we had to leave, right? So we parked. We got to the game 15 minutes late, into the gate 15 minutes late, because we had to park 3 miles away and walk/run/catch a shuttle/walk to get to the stadium. And then when it came time to get home, I was like, well, we can probably walk it faster than the shuttle can get us there, because we'll just go in a straight line. So I used Google, Maps guidance to get us back to the car, which took 2.5 hours on foot. Mostly it was okay. A lot of it was in darkness, alone on a bike path on a highway, and that's vaguely fine. But before that, we were still in traffic where people were trying to get all their cars out of downtown Auburn, and this storm is getting really close. Anyway, we were walking, and there were these 3 guys, and maybe they were frat boys. Maybe they weren't in a frat at all, but either way, they were 3 drunk, idiot young men, and they were walking over on kind of the other side of the road, and they were approaching all the cars and be like, hey, you want a beer? Hey, you want a beer? Hey, you want a beer? Oh, you suck. Blah, 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 blah. Bad language. You don't want a beer? They are walking up to random cars in the dark and knocking on windows and talking, just like jumping in. Hey, you want a beer? In my life, that's the kind of thing that gets you shot in the face. Like, that's not only rude, it is indiscriminate, it's lacking discretion, it is foolish and dangerous behavior. And at best, you get away with it, and at worst, you get dead. And these young men kept over and over again, and my wife, under her breath to me, said, be invisible. And I was like, be invisible? What are you talking about? And she said, when you're a woman, you learn to just try to be as invisible as possible when there are dangerous people around. And that has stuck with me ever since. I've never worried about being invisible since I was an adult, at least. And I've never thought, I need to prevent anything from drawing attention to me that these dangerous people might, then turn to for an alternative target. Because if someone turns to me and thinks they found a target, they've actually found like an Iron Maiden that's going to, mentally at least, maybe not in reality. And the idea that quote unquote boys will be boys, and that this was somehow normal or acceptable behavior still bothers me a lot. The idea that my wife felt like, she's over 40 years old. She doesn't look it by any means, but the fact that she felt that pressure, that fear, that need not to be targeted, even in my presence, that sucks. That's awful. That's not okay, man. There's no world in which women simply walking down the street should feel the need to disappear so that they aren't accosted by men, drunk or otherwise. And whether I'm there or not, or whether somebody else is there or not to witness / prevent or, help, no one should have to go through that in America. I know it happens in America and other places, but it cannot be allowed to be that way. If we're going to be that way, we might as well be everything we claim that we're better than. We had one of the greatest evenings of our lives, seeing something we will probably never see again. I mean, Messi's probably going to retire firstly, but also to see it 45 minutes from our house for a pittance, financially, compared to what a World Cup match costs. That was an amazing experience, and to have it sullied by a bunch of morons who haven't learned that having a few drinks doesn't give you license to be an idiot, potentially a dangerous idiot. That's unacceptable. So, with regard to toxic masculinity, with regard to doing better, I hope that myself and that other people like me, other men, other boys, come on, man, these guys might be like your banker in a couple of years. They weren't that young. They weren't in high school. So I hesitate to use the word boys. Terry Pratchett wrote a book called Nation. It was outside of the Discworld series. It was a standalone book. And there's a point where all the boys of this island are sent to another smaller island where they have to make a canoe. And it's like, how do you make a canoe with no tools and no nothing? You get dropped off there. How do you make a canoe? And what Mao, M-A-U, Mao, the character finds is an axe embedded in a log. And what he realizes is that the last men there cut down a tree, left a log, and they left an axe. And the conclusion is men help other men. And I hope that's what this is. It's if it's a help to women, that is enough. But if it's a help to other men, if other men look at this and say, I that's what I've been doing, and you're right, that's wrong, then I've been a help to other men as well. Protecting women's one thing. That's kind of built in to the model. But helping men to realize who they can be, who they should be, and who they have been and don't have to be anymore, that almost feels as important, because that's where change, that's where the future actually happens. It can't be simply a case of somebody sitting in front of a camera and reprimanding men. It has to be a case of, you can be more than what you are now. You can do more than what you are now. That may not ever involve having like a deep romantic or intimate relationship with a woman. And when you realize that, all of a sudden, the burden is not, oh, when am I ever going to have a wife and a family? The burden is, what can I do every single day to bring compassion and love and kindness to the world around me? And that doesn't have to just be women. It's your fellow man. It's, the people around you that simply have to be in your life and coexist with you. They need to know, whether they are men or women, that you're not merely an ally to women or minority groups. You are human, and you see them as humans. And that shirt that I had on a few nights ago, quoting Granny Weatherwax from Terry Pratchett's Tiffany Aching series in the Discworld, evil begins when you begin to treat people like things. People are not things. They are not objects that can, give you all the things that you want and hope for in life. Every one of them is a person. And boys will be boys reduces people to base urges and desires and indiscretions. And while we all have our indiscretions, first among equals on that footing, we all have our indiscretions. I'm not judging you for giving in to human frailty. I am saying you have a choice in the matter. You can be better. You can be stronger. Feels a little bit like that weird song. You gotta be bad, you gotta be cool, you gotta be strong, you gotta be wiser. You gotta have faith, you gotta be something. Anyway, so a funny rhyming song from the 90s, early 90s. You have a choice. You can be those dudes running up to cars, but toting like half a six-pack. Be like, you want a beer? Or you can choose to apply yourself to thoughtful work on yourself and to the world around you, and how you can be a positive force in the world. I haven't always been a positive force. I've rarely been a force at all. I'm not a force now, but every day when I engage with somebody face to face, whether it's a man or a woman, but I'm more conscious of it when it's a woman, I want to at least show that I'm not just seeing a woman. I'm not seeing a prospect. I'm not seeing a potential victim. Like, if you think of a woman in that way of like, she could be my next big thing, you are considering how you can make her a victim. That's unacceptable. I'm not out here trying to be America's Cosby 2.0, especially given how Cosby turned out. But I am trying to bring consideration and thoughtfulness to a topic that is far too polarized and far too us versus them. Because I'm a man, if you want me to sit here and say, but let's also talk about women, I'm not a woman. I don't have any frame of reference for how women feel except from what I am told by women in my life, in real life, and even in what I see on the internet. But when I hear it from my own wife's lips, as I referenced in the last video about the male gaze, and from my wife about how you try to be invisible so that you don't draw attention and you don't become a target, that's rough. I've never worried about that. And I don't want my daughter to worry about that. And she probably will. But maybe you won't be the one who makes her worry about that. Maybe you won't be the one who makes a woman feel like a target, or that she needs to look at you so that you receive some sort of validation that you can't find within yourself. I probably need to talk about at some point how your feelings are not invalid. The desire for validation and for love and affection are not invalid. But that perhaps our procedures and practices for achieving that validation have been utterly broken in modern society. Maybe we'll talk about that more at length later. Right now I've got a whiny cat. Yes. I see you. You want some pets. We'll talk about that at a different time. So, good evening.